Hey, people. Back in the day, people used to keep track of the stars and the heavens, kept a close eye on where the planets were, and wrote it down. And the main reason they did this because they didn't have a watch, but mainly because God said, and let them be for signs and seasons, to let you know what's coming. And let them be for lights in the firmament of the heavens to shine upon the earth. And it was so. Why, hence, from this time forward. But it's the oldest religion, it's astrology. Believe it or not, look at the Farmer's Almanac, and the day they say the fishing is going to be best is when Venus says it's going to be best. And you'll sink the boat. So I finished up a movie yesterday, looking at this first line in Genesis 2 in the Hebrew, Greek, and the Latin. And this is really where the beginning of the book starts. And somebody asked me to do another movie on Ramiel, and that's coming, but that's what helped me catch this. But this word in the beginning doesn't mean in the beginning. It means to remind, to raise it in remind. That the L followed by the A is an N. And this is where mind comes from. And do you mind? And I'll do a movie on it. I learned a bunch. But, it's where the captain hollers, mind your helm. And it's where your word reminiscent come from. And this is read as in remind at Tissin, the A, E, S, S, and M-I-M is an N, a Tissin. In raise it in remind a Tissin waters. Not the earth, but waters. The symbol for the earth is a stroke through the water symbol, the waters. And in raise it in rematissin waters, is alchemy, to distill. And so this first chapter is actually just, reminding you, to raise it in remind, to remember from the past this. And then it gives you a page, a list of things, just to remind you, things you should have already known from books that we no longer have a trace of. They had to burn this one library about 3 times. And this ain't the only one. They burnt huge libraries all over the world. And I'm sure it was all an effort just to keep people from reading this one book. It's strange how only one book was ever written in this script. And so that's what Ramiel means. It means in remind, and Miel. And so Ramiel would be the angel of hiding the meaning of remind, known as the first angel to come help Lucifer bring the light, to remind you. And then this is where the book starts in Genesis 2, where in line 4 it says, and this is the book of Genesis. And so this is just setting up. The first was a reminder, and then this is setting the scene for the story to start. And I show you that in Greek, it looked to me like it was somebody on top of his roof tuning up his instrument. Was of a tell is this on of the hour on as. You look to the heavens, see what time it is. The hour on has a wedge, a piece, a wedge-shaped sliver, a wedge, a face, a cosmosaton. The piece of a phase of cosmosaton. And this word they give all. I say in the Hebrew, most more like a CL as in a select. Not all, but everything that the dial's pointing at. All of this select group. And it looks the same in the Latin here. And so I caught this in the Latin. This isn't even Latin. This is Boone. The only thing Latin in here, this is Roadrunner Latin here. I left a link to one of the Roadrunner Latin movies, and I think there's a better one somewhere I saw. But this is more like Roadrunner Latin. The modern Latin language, they created just to hide these writings here. Same as the modern Hebrew and the modern Greek. And I'm glad I started looking more into the Latin because I can find a lot more artwork. If you Google Music of the Spheres, you'll find a lot of the old coolest alchemy art. And all this art comes from people who understood how to read the Bible. This is from the time of Pythagoras when this school of thought come out. This is when he understood how to read Greek, Latin, and Hebrew. You know, in the Latin, I can find this artwork, with the biblical words to get a better picture of what these words mean. So everybody thinks, that on the seventh day God rested. But what they don't understand is there's only 1/7 a month. God rested one day a month. And so I'm going to prove to you that this word for seven doesn't mean seven in any of these books. It's the septimo here in the Latin, and the sabbat in the Hebrew, and the bottom in the Greek, and that's the most accurate. And it'll actually say the bottom here in the Hebrew and the Latin too. But this is the Sabbath here. You get a new moon, you put a name on the moon, and then you get your first day, you get a little sliver of light on it. The new moon comes up right there with the sun's why you don't see any light, because it's all behind it. And as it moves away from the sun, you get a little more light on the wedge, until 7 days, and then you have a septum. A septum is a wall, a fence that divides an enclosure into two parts. That's the septum in your middle of your face that divides your two nasal. And what it means is bottom. This is the bottom half of the moon. The moon's moving in this direction. It's moving away from the sun. The sun's shining on its bottom. And this is half bottom. You'll see it on the Greek here, on the day of the bottom, THEBDOM, the bottom. And you see the seventh, it ends with the H here. Here it ends with the N. But so this is the bottom, and then the HAF, the bottom half of Fonton. The bottom half is the seventh day. Just because it happened to be the seventh day, that ended up on the bottom half doesn't mean that the bottom means 7. And then the word for the 7 is the same as the word for day in the Hebrew. And what it is Bayam is Bayam. Bayam is Bayam, and it means the days are named Bayam. It means the planets. Oh, we happen to have 7 planets too. So were the days named after the planets, or were the planets named after the days is the question. The Bayam is Bayam. And you'll see that word for the bottom here too is, when it comes up in it, he rested, is BT, is butt. And the reason he rested is because he bust, B-U-S-B-T, bust butt. I've been busting butt all week. And so when it came time to rest, it was N-B-N-W-S. N was B-T-M, the bottom call. N was bottom call. Take a break, sit down. And so most everything in the Bible, the names, nothing given a name, everything's described in the old Adam language. And in Latin, you can really tell that's what it's talking about, just by the words it used, for his work that he made. Opus is the works in Italy, when you have created a great writing, a masterpiece of music, an opera. His work is that opera. And it changes up every time, even though that they interpret it the same every time. It's never the same. And the one, that he had made, the one who's playing the part, is the fesserat, the one who's telling it off, the professor, where that comes from, the first teller, the professorat. In the opera, the patraret, this is a fatherly patra, and the patrarat, and then the what, and you see this word, face is different. It's no longer the fesser, but it's the facered. And this is more where your word factory comes from, in May, to create fac, and what facered, and what it created. And in the Greek, that's the piece of what he did there. He played that piece, that part, the piece. And the works, is tis a guy, what of his peace. And here the works is, to a virgin odd of on the piece. A brand new, a virgin on. And over here, the same, a virgin odd of on hurts a tooth of fee. And hurts a tooth, is sweet virgin. An ancient word for hurts a tooth, a cavity. She's so sweet she give me a cavity. A hurts a tooth of a virgin odd on hurts a tooth is feeing. What a charge. And that's code word for, let's get it on and bang a gong. This is a bitch. A-B-C-H, a bitch. And that's the Hebrew word for and sacrifice. And sacrifice a virgin and hurts a tooth.
Right, all the dudes be just standing around and shit. I said, what you waiting on, man?
11:30. We gonna pitch a bitch at 11:30.
You can see that here in offered the sacrifices. It's the same word. And wise bitches bitch 'em. Wise bitches bitch 'em. Hey, them bitches ain't coming off no ass. That's because they're virgins. You got to sacrifice the virgins. This is a bitch 'em. And so telling the girl that she looked virginally is a pickup line. It means you look good. You might ought to put that ass on me because we're sacrificing virgins this weekend. But it's talking about the first day. In the Greek when it says the first day was mu. They'll tell you mu derived from the Egyptian hieroglyph symbol for water. But the hieroglyph for water was the letter N. Only when you stacked three of them up, then it was read as a mu, and it meant high water. The Egyptian symbol for M was the owl. The N was the water, and three waters is a nu, and it's pronounced as a mu. It was the beginning of flood season, the season of thought. And it happened every year. It happened right on the money that the Niles would flood, and they would set them. They would divide Egypt on August 29th. The August 23rd is the first day of the 6th month, Virgo. And 7 days later, was the first day of the year. And so all the work was going on before this. And this is the day of the flood, and everybody best had everything harvested and out of the Nile Valley, because the water's up on the 29th, New Year. So all the work's done, and everybody's up in Egypt partying. So back in the day, New Year's Day had a lot more meaning. New meaning, the flood, and you done had a new residence. You were living up in the city of Egypt. You were no longer down in the valley farming, And this was 1 week after the beginning of Virgo. Virgo the 7th, 29th. And so back in the day, educated people would crack open their Bible. And on the front, it'd have this great frontispiece on there. And had pictures and names, and to help you understand this more. And it would have this picture of this phase of the moon chart. And then, it'd have the Genesis 1, a reminder, hey, remember all these things that I taught you in my last book. And then it would go to Genesis 2, where it started the book of Genesis on line 4. And so the first 3 lines is working your way in there. And it says, was of a tale is this on of our on as a wedge, W-E-G-E, the wedge of phase a cosmoseton. Was of a tale of this on of the hour on has, what time it is, the wedge of phase a cosmoseton. And so this cosmoseton, the A word's reading backwards, and it's really, hidden in there. That's where you word cosmonauts, N-O-T, and the V-A is the feminine, and it actually replaces with a T-E or a D-E, a nada, and a cosmos nada. And it's old English word for night. And it means together, and S-M, name, and O-S as the night. The co-name as night. And it means, they use 2 different sources to pick out a name for the day. And the co was the moon. And only the interior planets, only the moon and Venus and Mercury, have that. The outer planets, we're never going to see a small sliver like that. The only time they'll hide from us is when they go behind the sun. And then again, was of a tale. And was of a tale is a notice, a N-O-T-E, a note as. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. It was a note, something you should notice. And was of a tale is in notice, in and thy. You got a double H here. And so this is sometime the comer, which is the day coming ahead. But here With this double H, it reads a thy and a mirror. And the notice in thy mirror, what you saw in the mirror, a mirror is just a small part, a just only. Oh, it's just a mere 100 calories, and in the big premiere, the first of many small parts to come, and noticed in the mirror. So anybody ever said, that a day of God is like 1,000 years, you're wrong. A God, a day is just, it's in the mirror. And was of a tell is in notice in the mirror. The catch, Thekth. And so the catch it is here, a Gaia, what of an AE is fees. Fees, and what he did, what he made, is it feasible? And so it's the planet of what of is fees. And so you don't catch that unless you've been reading in the Hebrew before this. And then you catch it in the mirror, and the Hebrew says, why clues in, W-I-Y, how, and K-L-U-E-S, why clues. And a mem is an N. It's a water, it's one N. And why clues in where it's a klitzinum. And that's a glitch, a K-L-X-G-L-X, a glitchinum. And some people notice the glitch, and some people just keep on reading, but I noticed the glitch. The glitch is it doesn't make sense, something's wrong, and what the hell is this mark here? This mark here is the mirror. And when what you notice in the mirror is the catch of the Gaia, what of is fees, the planet that is working. And so when you look in the mirror, this becomes a clam, a K-L-M-A-V, a clam of its inum. Why clues and where it's a clam of its inum. Venus. Even if it was a dude, they still put it in the clam. A clam being an ancient word for that ass. They had a glitch in them. Oh, they didn't have no pecker. They was a clam of what's in them. And so Venus, she's known as the 6th day. Venus is Friday. And that's why they have 6 here and 7 here. And although she's the 6th day, she's known as the 7th planet. And why call? Who call all him? Bium is bium, B-I-U-M. By them and is, and the B-I and the O-E reads as an E and then M. And bium is bium. The days are called, bium is bium, the planets. And the noctus, the noct was rose, the L followed by the A reads as N, N-A-C-T, noct, night, and W-S was rose, and the work, what he did, he raised the night. And wise of it bium is bium call, wise of it, old and wise, is Sabbath, the SBT is but. Whose but? Bium is bium, and call. And then backwards, what column? It's read as an L this way and an N the other direction. And that's the why the letters do that. And what column the night was rose? Then the prostitute. What column in night was rose? And why verse all at and mui? Backwards and forwards. The muium is by. And so this is and there's no M following it now. And it's a B-Y-E as in, goodbye, is by, is leaving, and much, and backwards and forwards, the muium, and muchum is gone. Who goods to see, we glad to see they're gone. Who goods, sanctified, the holy ones, the ones that passed the test, the clean. Who gods, who cods, and who goodsy tushu, a tushi, and goods a tushi, and glad them good a tushis is gone. and it's good to see in was bottom call. What column from night was her, and in rile him to as what? And so when you read it with these marks here, to tell you read the next one backwards and forwards, you ignore the A mark that tells you read that word backwards. And so it changes it, as from in remind to in rile him, in remind, and she's going to irritate you till you remember, rile him. And so it helps to get this story before you try to get the next story in the Greek. So over here in the Greek, it looks like he got some kind of slide rule, a computer made up, Was of a tale is this on, of the hour on as wedge, a phase, a cosmoseton. You see a oceton always on old slide rules. And was of a tale is in notice in the mirror of the catch. In the mirror of the catch, the narcissist. That's the word for the sons of Israel. Same thing in Hebrew, Venus rule. And Tizer, the A-E reading is E-S and T-E-S. And Tizer, a Gaia, the double A reading is a G-I-A, a Gaia. And Tizer Gaia, what of his fees? And what it's working, and how it has a gravitational pull, and her Gaia, what of his fees, into God of the fisherman, Venus. And catapause thy mirror, thy bottom half of font on, to virgin odd of one's peace. And what that means, Virgin, the god of work, god of sailors, Virgo, and that's where they get that works from, and the urge, and his works. But the N before the E, everything is a V, of Virgin, the Virgo, Nado, the god of the sailors. And so a catapause, a cata just means under, and under pause, and under stop. And you see a ball underneath the cat's paws and a lot of old ancient stonework. But the catapause, the mirror, the bottom half of font on Virgo. And it's saying to mirror the bottom half of font of Virgo. So the font of Virgo changed throughout the years, but they say this is the old Greek Roman from the 8th century BC, and this old Demotic in ancient Egypt. And I don't know how long this has been around. And they like you to think, that it represents the fish and the M's, the waters, and it's Marie. But if you grab the bottom half of these fonts and mirror them, and line that back up, this definitely looks like some old Demotic script. I don't remember. So much harder to search these days. And this one looks like a symbol of distillation, the drops coming down, and the A, the alchemy. And this is another one I see in ancient writings all the time. I don't know what that is. But this one here that's modern, it's a pause, and catapause, under the pause is a boat. And he rested, and under the pause. That means in his boat, on his day off, he was in his boat resting, the catapause. And it's top secret, nobody knows that, unless you figure out that you have to mirror. And he catapaused the mirror, the bottom half of font onto Virgo. And the catapause, just to let you know that that's what it means, is the boat. It's under pause. They definitely show you, the pause sign. I saw one of these magical alphabets one time, and most every letter looked like an M to me. And now it makes a lot more sense, and that would be the magic alphabet of the day of rest, and because everything that's an M, will be under pause, whatever's underneath that, it'll be under the pause when you mirror it on the day of rest, the mirror of the day, and of rest on the Sabbath, the bottom. It's a way of passing secret code right there in front of everybody, in these books if you have the key. And so, and he rested means, and catapause, and laid under the pause sign, the hidden symbol. So, if you don't believe in God yet, when they say God created the world, it means this dude knew so much about so much, you damn sure didn't want to argue with him. All this up here, it was just trying to say to you that Venus, in the mirror, the catch, what you caught in the mirror over here. And what you caught over here in the mirror, the catch. The catch is, it could either mean 7 or 6. And you have to check in the mirror to see the catch. The precession equinox took that day, and it later became the 6th. And so, 'tis her Gaia, a word's reading backwards. And, 'tis her gave, G-A-V, to gave it. The catch, 'tis her gave it wise fees. The first A ring is an I, W-I-E. And then the A-E ring is an E-S. And gave it her wise fees. The E-S, you see the species in there. The O-I reads the E, the S-P-E-E-S-E, the species, the type. And catapause the mirror, the bottom half of font onto Virgo. And when you read these A words backwards, this becomes a votu. And to virgin votu. A votu is your votee, the one you're devoted to, the one you vow to. It means to pay homage to the gods. Vodu, votum, anything like that, the one you're devoted to, the vow to. All the homage to be paid. And when you're reading A words backwards, it's the bottom, and it's no longer the half, it's the hop. The bottom hop upon don't on. Hop upon a don't on, a virgin, a votu, to vow, of the fees, of the works, of a piece. Whose lodges in notice then come the rent, and whose lodges in, where are you living, who's sleeping here, and noticed then come the rent. It's time to pay up. God bless the day, and who sleeps in noticed, and then come the rent. That means fixing to get the hell out. On the bottom on which goes in. On the bottom on which goes in, and sanctified it and made it holy. Enema. On the bottom in which goes in. And a yeta, the double N ring is a Y, Y-E-T, and yet. And the VA reading is a T-E, as in feminine, as in you haven't been in her yet. A yeta. A yeta is a girl that you haven't been with before. And which goes in, G-I-A ring is a G-U, which goes in yeta, the virgin. And Adi in it, the U-A reading is a T-E, a D-E. And Adi in it, the feminine. In iticate, a pause in backwards, of a font onto virgin. What Dion, the U-A reading is the D-E-O-N, the God, what Dion, hurts a tooth, has the fian. And so in this word for day, you could see that, it's a parody, it's not the same, and here the day was when the day of the rent, and then come the rent, on that last day. Meaning, getting the hell out, pay the rent, or hit the road. And over here, it's why verse. Verse is talking. And why verse all him at, and then backwards and forwards, mooey, too much. Who talks too much is by. There's no M falling now. It's just the B-Y-E. It's gone. You talk too much, by. The rent's due. Time to go. And there's so much more that connects the different books, all 3 different books, that I didn't get near as much as I wanted to in this movie. I want to look at all 3 of these, but I'm going to make another movie and look at all 3 of these again. and I won't repeat all this. So you're pretty much going to want to see this one first. And I'll show you more about this Latin and how easy it is to read once you start to get it. And I'll put them in this folder up top here called Pitch a Bitch. Then we'll cut this off here. Have a good day.